Paltrocast.
Hey, Wolf, can you hear me okay?
Hey, Darren Paltrowitz. That's a good name. It's a good German, Polish name, I would assume, or what is it?
Polish, Austrian, all sorts of things. Wolf Hoffmann, you have the right number of syllables that no one's
Do
ever
I?
going to your name.
I
Wolf
never thought of it then.
Hoffmann. Uh,
Okay.
Thank you for your time. A pleasure to be speaking with you. Last time I had the pleasure of speaking with you was over email, and we were talking about solo albums and photography and all that. We're going to
Ah,
get to that. But let's first talk about Humanoid and your touring in support of Humanoid. When did you finish the Humanoid record?
well, the actual recording was finished. Gosh, I can't even remember, to be honest. It was sometime last year. It might have been August or something like that, but don't quote me on that. Could have been July. Sometime late summer, I would think it was. And then it was mixed. We let it sit for a couple of months because Andy was busy with other stuff, and Andy mixed it maybe in September or so,
Mhm.
and delivered it in the fall to Napalm, and then it was sitting on their desk for a while until it's now finally in the hand of the fans. It's crazy nowadays. You have to have all this pre-release time because the vinyl pressings have to be secured, and I don't know why they need so much time, but there's always a big sort of prep time involved nowadays before an album actually is in the stores or in the hands of the fans.
Right, releasing 3 or 4 singles to Spotify and all that before it comes out, and two or
That's
three
right.
videos. So by the time the album's actually out, the fans have kind of heard half of it.
Yeah, and by that time, the musicians have to relearn the songs sometimes because it's been a while that we've played it.
But in following except social media, I see not only do your musicians have to learn the songs, but they also have to learn the stage moves. They have to do the correct choreography in the right way.
That's something we always go through. And then in this case, we have Joel on board. He's an amazing guitar player. We're so lucky to have him on this tour, but just for fun, we actually did do a couple things here. This is what we do in this song. This is what we do here. So just to get to know each other, because hey, it's a stage show, isn't it? We're not just standing on stage and staring at our shoes. We're actually, you
Right.
know, we're putting in an effort.
Right. So one thing I didn't know until I traveled internationally a lot was how, except all these years, has been a Budokan level band. That depending on the country, you're playing a theater or an arena or festival headlining. Like it's different levels of popularity for different countries. So
Yeah.
it's this 40 plus years of success. Was there ever a point where you went, okay, there needs to be a backup plan, or did you always know that Accept was a long term thing for you?
No, quite the opposite. I never knew that it was going to be a long-term thing. When I started in this band all these years ago, almost 50 years now, which is
Yep.
crazy, but
Yeah.
when I was just a wee lad, a little teenager boy, trying to explain to my parents that I wanted to be a musician full time, there was no such thing as a full-time rock musician who can do it their life. It was basically always understood that one day you got to wake up and get a real job because this won't last forever, boy. I was just definitely told that, and because I didn't have any examples of other people doing it all their life long. This
Right.
was at the very beginning of the rock and metal scene, and there was nobody in their 40s even, So no, it was never a long-term goal. I always looked at it like, okay, we're going to do this year and next year, and we'll see what happens after that. But nobody had any long-term outlook. Or I always thought, let's ride the train while we can and see what happens, and then the rest will sort of present itself later. Maybe I have to get a real job one day, or maybe whatever. And then the 90s came around, and I thought, well, I guess the time is here now. The rock and roll and the 80s metal time is over, and maybe it's time to do something else. And that's when I left the music scene and became a photographer for a number of years.
Right. Right. Now, when I think about Nashville these days, I don't think about country music. I think about all the hard rock musicians that have relocated to Nashville. What is it that brought you out to Nashville, and when did you wind up out there?
I wound up there, the first one ever. I think when I got there in '93, a long time ago,
Yeah.
there was nobody in the metal scene or even rock world out there. I remember the people, the locals telling me, oh yeah, there's another guy that's sort of heavy. It's John Cale from Steppenwolf was supposedly. And to me, that's not really well, it's kind of heavy,
Well,
but
he invented the term heavy metal through the lyric Heavy Metal Thunder, so he gets a pass.
exactly. He's all right. I mean, I never met the guy. I guess he's, but whatever. But that was the only other name that was considered maybe heavy. And I was by far the, I didn't move out there to be in the local scene or to, I just liked it because it was involved and it was a city that was all about music. And it seemed to be the right place, even though I shortly after I moved there or sometime after I moved there, left the music scene altogether, then it was still a decent place to live. And it wasn't until maybe 10, 15 years ago that everybody and their sister started to move to Nashville. And now it's the mecca of musicians, period. I mean, a lot of people that you never in a million years would think would move out, would move to Nashville. They've all there. They're all there now. It's crazy.
Yeah. So you beat Michael Wagner by like a decade in moving to Nashville.
Actually, I believe it or not, I kind of had this conversation with Michael, and I talked him into moving into Nashville.
Oh,
I did, yeah. And we at the time he was kind of tired of LA, and I said, "Man, you should check out Nashville." And we actually built a studio together on my farm. I had a sort of a horse property out there in the middle of nowhere, and he and I built a studio together, and he worked out of that place on my land for many years until he then moved into his own place. So we have a
wow.
long history, Michael and I. Yeah.
Of course. And the upcoming tour with KK's Priest, of course, there's history in that, except opened up for Priest on one of Priest's biggest tours. Andy Sneap is somehow able to go between party lines and working with you, but it's also KK at the same time. There is a Nashville show on this upcoming tour. Does it feel like a hometown show for you? Do you get extra kudos and cheers when you play Nashville?
We've only once played Nashville in all these years. That was 2 years ago, and it was a great show. I loved it.
Oh,
But we'll see how it goes. Yeah, Nashville it's only lately becoming a stopover for all these touring metal acts. I mean, um, in years ago, it was always American tours never went through Nashville because it wasn't considered a place for rock or metal. But it's certainly has changed now. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Should be a fun show for sure.
that's fascinating that you don't have that hometown kind of show for years and years because a lot of bands, that's usually the anchor for the tour, the hometown show where they play a bigger venue than they would elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because the history of the band, hometown shows for us would be more Germany because that's where we started. And even now, when we go back to certain cities in Germany, there's a lot of people that know us from the very early days, and those would be maybe more considered the hometown crowd. Even yeah, even though I've left Germany many years ago, but still the band originated there, and I guess there's a certain quite a connection there.
Mhm. Now, one thing that intrigues me about cities in generals, that while it's in the United States, you learn that there's a rich cultural heritage from outside the US in that particular city. Like my town is a beach town on Long Island, and there's a big Irish heritage to it. So I'm not
Yeah.
saying you can walk around speaking Gaelic, but a lot of people identify as being Irish. Is there a big German Nashville?
No, there's not really, but there's a part of the city that's called Germantown. So there must have been a lot of Germans back then. But I've been to Germantowns many times. I didn't find a German there.
Got it.
I
So
always,
hey,
I always made it for many years. I used to joke that I'm the only German in Nashville, and then Michael came along, and then there was two of us then.
exactly. Well, good thing my John Kay. Actually, John Kay isn't he German? Because
I
I knew
think
that
he
he lived in.
is or half German or something. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there's two and a half of you. But either way,
Exactly. Two and a half Germans.
two and a half Germans. Humanoid is the new record. Are you playing a lot of it on the upcoming tour?
We've played 4 or 5 songs of the new album so far, and I think we will continue to throw in others. We're already discussing that for the fall and the summer tours that we're going to do. We're going to bring in others because there's so much great material on this album that we would like to try. And it's interesting when I speak with people about the new album, it's not always the same 2-3 songs that are everybody's favorite. It's actually all over the board, which is good. I think there's a lot of variety, and certain people pick certain songs, others pick others. I mean, everybody has their own special song that they like the most, or a group of songs. So I think it's worth exploring the whole album and maybe throwing them all into the set list at one point or another.
It's a pretty good sign when you are 40 plus years into a career, and one of the biggest problems is, what are we going to play tonight, because we only have 80 minutes and we have 40 plus years of history to put into this. So I can imagine the challenge of going, well, we have to represent the new album, but at the same
Right.
time we have to play the hits.
Yeah,
So
and there's also you always want to play the cover song also, because it's the title track. You want to play, not the cover song, the title song of the new album.
Mhm.
Because it's a Humanoid tour, so you definitely want to play that song. So there's all these kind of have to kind of things that you want to do, but yeah, that only leaves room for so much experiments. Really, it's true, because we always want to play Princess of the Dawn. It's one of the crowd favorites, and we want to play Balls to the Wall for sure. So
yeah.
yeah, but hey, man, it's a luxury problem to have.
Well, one of the things we called out at the beginning of this conversation was your success as a photographer. Do you shoot concerts? Do you go into photo pits, or is that just outside of the photography that you want to do?
I don't really do any serious photography anymore. I mean, I did it, like I said, in the 90s, when I thought the music career was a thing of the past, and I thought I'd start a new life, basically. But then 2009 comes around, and we meet Mark Tonillo, and my life changed completely again, and I'm now full blown into music again. So I said, I was doing it parallel for a while, and I carried my cameras with me. And then I realized, this isn't really worth it anymore. This is, first of all, but to just document the band and the travels, there's a lot of the sameness every day. There's a lot of airports, there's a lot of hotels, and a lot of stuff that doesn't make good photos. And the other thing is, everybody has, these iPhones now, and they're so damn good, and the quality is so good that I no longer have a camera with me, actually, and the stuff that I shoot is just snap stuff stuff for social media and this and that. Sometimes I still take time off and wander the streets and take a few pictures of things that interest me, but I wouldn't consider myself a photographer anymore, to be honest, or a serious photographer. I think I can still take a decent picture, and if I need to, and we need a picture, and I have an idea of what we need, or I can still do it, and I will if the opportunity presents itself. Sometimes I take even photos of us, of the band and such, for like autograph cards or something, and yeah, then I sometimes do that.
So you don't use your rock fame to get free tickets and shoot in the photo pit of concerts instead of paying for tickets. I
Hell
would.
no. Hell no. No, sir. I don't even go to concerts as a spectator ever. I'm a bit strange in that way. I guess once you're in the business and of making your own music and doing your own shows, you can no longer enjoy it as a spectator as much, because even when I see some other bands performing, I immediately go into analytic mode and say, oh, this is how they do this. Oh, look at that, they're doing this. So I'm really immediately analyzing it, and I can't really just sit there and enjoy it. It's just weird.
Got it. Well, I got two questions for you, and then I'll let you go. How's that
Okay.
sound? Okay. First one is the clickbait question, because you say the words Van Halen and automatically the traffic increases 300%, and then Blabbermouth writes it and Brave Words writes it up. So did Accept ever have an interaction with the band Van Halen? The reason I ask that is because Germany was not one of the main touring territories for Van Halen, and in general, they didn't tour Europe very much.
Yes, we played and even a good one. I can come up with a good one here. We played the Castle Donington Festival, I believe it was 1984.
Yes.
Monsters of Rock, I think it was called, whatever. But it had the best lineup of any festival ever. It was Van Halen in the original lineup, and I think it was even their last show together in the original lineup back then. There was AC/DC, there was Ozzy Osbourne, who else? YMT, Motley Crue, except somebody else that I can't. Oh, Gary Moore was there too. So it was a fantastic lineup, and like I think it was. I remember I watched them actually performing then, Van Halen, but we never get to talk to. I mean, we were all sharing this backstage area, but I was too shy to walk over and say, "Hey, I'm Wolf from Germany." Hey, I don't know. It didn't feel right.
There's footage from that show that finally came out within the last 6 months or so, and it showed John Entwistle hanging out backstage around the band and all that. Was he somebody you remember seeing?
I do actually. I even took a picture of him somewhere. Like on my photo day back then, I still used to carry my big lens cameras everywhere, and I remember taking some pictures. Yeah, I do.
Wow. Well, the last question I have for you, not many people know where you came from musically. So, what was the band that made you want to start playing guitar in the first place?
I have to pick. Well, of course, it's a combination of people and bands and artists. If I had to pick on one, it probably would be Ritchie Blackmore of Deep Purple. Everybody loved Ritchie Blackmore back then, and Deep Purple were huge in Germany, and that was a huge influence on us. I mean, there was others like Judas Priest and AC/DC and a variety of other bands like, Status Quo and I mean, even Jethro Tull, oddly enough, 70s stuff.
Got it. So you didn't start off as a Beatles guy, you were straight into the hard rock.
No, I was actually more Beatles than, back then it was just Beatles or Stones, and I was always Beatles.
There
Definitely,
you go.
because I like their songs better. I don't know. I think I'm more of a sucker for melodies and such. And I've always more into the Beatles than the Stones. I mean, you always had to be one or the other. You couldn't possibly be both, which is odd, isn't it? It's strange. Why can't you be like both? But it was always one or the other.
Exactly. Well, Wolf, I'm going to thank you yet again for taking the time. But on top of that, thank you for the decades of great art. Looking forward to the next show in New York, and just keep up all the greatness out there. Congrats on Humanoid.
Thank you very much. It was fun talking with you.
Paltrocast.